Isley, and I'm a member of the Assistive Technology team for Palm Beach County Schools. I thank you for participating in today's online training. This is my first time doing an online training, so please bear with me. We'll make it through together. I thank you for participating in the session called Assistive Technology, When to Consider AT for a Student. We always like to start our trainings with a welcoming ritual, and figured since we're online, we might as well try one of those virtually. So whenever I participate in Google Meets or online trainings, I like to look in the background of the person who's presenting or the other participants in the session and try and figure out where they are, what room in the house, if they're presenting from their bathroom or from their kitchen. And so let's try that here today. Go ahead and make a guess at where I'm presenting this training to you from. If you guessed my back patio, you'd be correct. Great job. I figured since it was a beautiful morning, I should be outside, have a fan set up to provide a little bit of air movement here because you know that South Florida summer mornings aren't necessarily cool and crisp. So again, thank you for participating in this training. We are going to be talking about when to consider assistive technology for a student. And that can be answered very quickly and very simply. We consider assistive technology every time we write an IEP. Plain and simple. It's one of the assurances, one of the considerations that the federal government requires. They mandate that we at least consider it for every single child, every single time we write an IEP. So the long and short of this session is we consider assistive technology every single time we write an IEP for a student. So the next question that begs is, what is assistive technology? Since we have to consider it, we should consider in detail what assistive technology is. So let's get started with the training now. What I'm going to do is present my screen to you. The first thing we'll start off with is our PowerPoint. Okay, we've got our PowerPoint up, and I'm going to run the PowerPoint from the beginning. And you can see that the title here is accompanied by a couple pictures there. It's starting to provide a little bit of hints as to what assistive technology is. Assistive technology, when we commonly think of it, is that high tech. So that Google Chromebook in this picture or on this slide would really kind of hit home with people who think of what assistive technology is. But it's more than that. Assistive technology also can be what's in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. That's called a reading guide. It isolates a section of text for students who maybe get distracted by too much text on a page. Maybe they can't visually track from line to line. So identifying that or highlighting a little bit more isolated portion of text does the trick for them. You can also see in that picture that it's color coded. So that yellow would provide that color coding for kids. There is research that shows that different colors go with different disabilities. So we're not going to get into that right now, but it is something that is assistive technology. Today, we are going to talk about the district AT process. How do you refer somebody for assistive technology? We're going to talk about low-tech tools. We're going to learn how those tools can help students that are struggling learners. We're also going to talk about the high-tech tools, the AT web page, free websites and resources, and also Chromebooks, iPads, apps, and extensions. I also want to highlight on this page that there are a couple additional low-tech tools that are assistive technology. In the upper right-hand corner, there's pencil grips. Sometimes just that simple pencil grip that provides a little cushion for kids. Kids often will grab that pencil really hard and they fatigue quickly and they get hand cramps and pain in their hands. Sometimes providing something as simple as a pencil grip can provide the support they need to complete that writing task. In the lower right-hand corner is another one of those reading guides. This one just masks a portion of the text and then highlights just one line at a time. There's lots of different formats for those reading guides. Now let's talk about assistive technology in general. It's a huge umbrella, and what we're going to focus is on the left side of that umbrella, the access to curriculum portion. On the right side, we have augmentative alternative communication. Those are for nonverbal students who need picture symbol support and or a communication device for their voice. We're going to focus on that left side, as I talked about. So what is assistive technology, or AT? AT is a tool that helps students with a disability accomplish a task at school, at home, or in the community. We also can talk about what AT is not. It's not an eligibility. It is not a curriculum or a tutoring software. It is not a therapy. It is not a goal or benchmark. We do not write goals for the technology. We write goals that help the students meet their curriculum or meet their IEP goals. And then we use technology to support that. There's a distinct difference. We don't write goals or benchmarks for technology. We write good goals for students based upon their current level of performance. And then we provide technology, if it's needed, to help them reach that goal. And it's not a test and evaluation that produces a score. We're not going to say after the assessment you got an 86, therefore you don't get anything. If you would have had an 84, you do get something. That's not the way it works. We'll talk about how it works in a little bit. Let's look at the bottom bit of this screen. On the left, we have a word processor, simple tool that can allow a student to type instead of handwrite their assignment. In the middle, we have math grid paper. I love math grid paper for all students doing math, especially in the elementary level, actually in all levels. It provides a way for us to isolate those boxes, to allow students to not have their work slide to the side or to get mixed up in where they are in their assignment. Provides great feedback. I will show you resources later of where you can find free downloadable math grid papers. And on the right, a Chromebook. We will, in this training, be talking about some supports that are provided through the Google Chromebooks, through higher technology, and most of them are free and available to everyone. So in assistive technology, access to curriculum, we break it into categories, and it's just simply handwriting and composing, that writing, reading, and math. So writing, reading, and math are the 3 R's. And then we also add learning and study skills, but that portion encompasses the ones above it anyway. So those are the things that we're going to be talking about today and things that can support each one of those. Let's take a look at the assistive technology that's presented here on this screen. In the upper left-hand corner of the screen, that's NCR paper. It basically makes a copy. So one student, if a student takes great notes, you could offer supplemental grades for them or a little enrichment grades for them for taking the notes for someone else. They write the notes, they rip out one page, they hand it to the student on the way out of class, and that student who's not physically capable or really struggles with legibility can have a copy of the notes from that day. To the right of that, we have highlight paper. So it just provides that nice structure. So a student, this would be a primary student, has the upper and lowercase letters, can clearly be identified where they go on the page. Below that, we have some rulers. Those rulers they look like simple rulers, but they have a raised ridge down the middle, makes it easy for students to manipulate it. They also are transparent, so these could be used to isolate text as a student's reading down. So we can kind of adapt different tools for different functions. And then on the right, highlighters. Highlighters are great ideas. So this brings me to a question of lots of classes use highlighters. So does everyone in that class, are they considered using assistive technology? And the answer to that is no. When it's the common practice in the classroom that we're using highlighters, then it's not considered assistive technology. But if a student needs this, it's not the common thing that's being used in the classroom, and we're noting it on the IEP, it is considered assistive technology. So that kind of defines that for you. Chromebooks, same thing works. If the whole class is using Chromebooks, then that's not considered assistive technology for everyone. If one student is using to complete an essay instead of handwriting it, then it is considered. So that kind of delineates it in your mind of when it's considered assistive technology. Next is a way that we use in Palm Beach County. It's a tool, an acronym, SET, that stands for Student, Environment, Tasks, and Tool. This is a nationally recognized framework for addressing the needs of students that struggle with learning. It was created by Joy Zabala, and we've kind of stolen it from her and incorporated it into what we do in Palm Beach County. We'll talk a bit about it briefly here, but it kind of gives a nice framework for how we can isolate what the problem is and then what tools we can use to address that problem. So the S standing for student, we look at the student, their strengths and weaknesses. We look at their IEP or 504 plan. The environment that they're being taught in. Is this a Trailblazers class or a class the teacher really doesn't feel comfortable using technology? Is it a regular education class or a specialized unit? Those kind of things. Tasks, the tasks that are required for that student to participate in the curriculum. Those things that are struggled for them, then we want to note those. And then finally, the tools. If we put it in that order of student, environment, tasks, and tools, finally, then we usually end up with a nice match for the needs of the student. Why do we consider low-tech tools first? Well, there's lots of reasons. First of all, they're simple and low cost. They require little or no training. They're easy to use. They're usually found in local stores and catalogs, and they have little maintenance. The most important reason why we consider low-tech tools is because of least restrictive environment. We are required to have students participate in the normal way everyone else in the classroom participates, if it's at all possible. So providing low-tech supports first allows us to allow that student to participate just like everyone else. Having a pencil grip on their pencil doesn't make them stand out in the classroom like a Chromebook or a laptop or an iPad would. So we must consider least restrictive first. Let's go through the items that are here on this page. I see in the upper left-hand corner, there's a time timer. This is a great tool for students who struggle with attentional issues. If we can set that time so they know how long they have to work, or conversely, you could say you have this much time left to complete your assignment. So those kind of structures help a kid out who struggles with attention. Then again, a myriad of pencil grips, lots of different shapes and sizes and viscosities so that students can have lots to choose from. There's also a spelling dictionary down below. And then a reading guide that's a tongue depressor that just has some eyes so a student can follow along with lines. Here's some more low-tech tools. Children's talking dictionaries, finger grip rulers, Fiskar, first scissors, magic rubber erasers, magnifying bars, a spelling ace, and highlighted paper. A couple of the ones on this page that I'd like to highlight is that magic rubber eraser. Quite often those kids who have, again, attentional issues, they erase very, very hard and they end up with holes in their paper. Those magic rubber erasers. If a kid, even if they're erasing a lot, it doesn't rip the paper. They're great tools. A magnifying bar in the lower right-hand corner that magnifies the text, as well as you see that yellow line. It can highlight in yellow one line of text. And then that highlighting paper is another great tool for students who struggle with legibility in writing. We will also today talk about some high-tech items. Chromebooks, iPads, touch monitors, laptops, communication devices are all they're examples of high-tech items. Those communication devices, you might see those around your school, but they're very isolated. Most often in our school districts, we see those laptops, those Chromebooks, and sometimes on campuses, the iPads. Now we're going to switch gears. I'm going to transition away from the PowerPoint, and we're going to get our hands dirty a little bit and talk about some of those high-tech items. We're going to talk about websites and resources. The Palm Beach School Assistive Technology team has a webpage that has lots of free online supports, tutorials, lots of things that students can access from home, from school, to provide that academic support for students. So that's that first link on the page. Next link is the Chrome Web Store. We're going to be talking about Chrome apps and extensions today. That link will take you directly to the Chrome Web Store so that you can look up some of the items that we talk about here today. Next is a Google Drive document, a link to that, where I discuss and show the steps to downloading Read and Write for Chrome. That's a great extension for the Chrome web browser that we will talk about today, and that has detailed information on how you can download that. And then also our Google Classroom code. We have an Assistive Technology Google Classroom. We love sharing information with teachers. This PowerPoint will be on there, as well as a myriad of other resources for you to use. Once again, we're always looking for things that are free or very low cost for teachers. We understand the constraints you're under, and we also want kids to have access to these as well. So the Google Classroom code is there for you when you're done with this training. I'm going to exit out of my PowerPoint and stop sharing for a second. And then I'm going to share again. Just bear with me, I'm sorry. Just a little technical difficulties here. Now I've got it. Great. I had minimized my previous page. So now I need to share the correct page with you. Okay, I hope you are seeing our Assistive Technology Google Classroom. You can note the Google Class code is there as well. And you see there's lots of information under the classwork. We have read, please read before you share things. We have AAC boards. We have social stories and AAC activities. Then we get more into OT resources, voice typing, Cami. A lot of the things that we'll be talking about today are noted here as well. Okay, so that's our Google Classroom. And now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our Drive. there's some supports within our Google Drive that everyone has access to. We're all familiar, and all of our students are familiar with going to our portal. We can access lots of different learning supports for students and productivity supports for us. If we go to our Drive, there's lots of ways for us to start a new document. So I can go just from my new, I can go to Drive, find a new Google Doc. I can go to what I call the Rubik's Cube, and I can start a new doc. There's lots of ways. There's extensions that we'll be talking about in a little bit that I can start a Google Doc directly from there. If I start a new Google Doc, there's a great support that I want to share with you today that everyone has access to. It is a phenomenal support, and I encourage, if students need to, that they have access to this as well. So it is under Tools on a Google Doc, and it's called Voice Typing. In voice typing, this is how I can talk to the computer, and it will write down everything that I say, period. I always have students stop after a sentence so they can gather their thoughts, so there aren't as many ums or and thens and ands. They can get their thoughts together. The computer will write down everything that I say, period. I can think again, collect my thoughts. I need to go back and reread what the computer wrote so that I can make sure it didn't make any mistakes, period. Okay, so you can see I wrote a short paragraph. This paragraph, it doesn't seem like it made any mistakes, but often when students reread their own writing, they think it sounds right to them, but providing that auditory feedback might be helpful to a kid. So there's another tool that popped up on mine because I've downloaded this purple puzzle piece, Read and Write for Google Chrome, and it produces this additional toolbar where I can have whatever's on the screen read back to me. It's a great tool for students to listen to what they've written before they turn it in so they can make sure it sounds right to them. So let me play what I just wrote.
I can talk to the computer and it will write down everything that I say. The computer will write down
Okay, so when I go back and review this, I can say, oh, I had two sentences that sounded almost identical. Perhaps I want to take one of those sentences out. I can do my editing, have it reread again. Lots of times students have the accommodation of all non-reading items read to them aloud. They can have things read to them, but a human doing that might sound exasperated if a child asked them to reread something to them 8 or 10 times. The computer's never going to do that. It's not going to sound judgmental. It's just going to reread it in that exact same fashion every single time. All right, so that's a great tool, that voice typing. Again, it's found under Tools, and go down to Voice Typing. Now, I mentioned something called an extension. It brought up this toolbar, that Read and Write for Chrome. I have across my web browser many extensions from Google Chrome. Let me explain what an extension is. An extension extends what the web browser does. Our school district uses the Google Chrome browser as our default browser. We should be using it when we access the web portal. The Google Chrome web browser has, just like the Apple App Store, has extensions and apps that you can use to help you with your learning, with your productivity, or whatever you need. So I'm going to go through many of these, and I'm also going to start by showing you how you can get them. How you can get them is a simple process. I look at this Rubik's Cube. It's the colorful one that says apps on your browser window. I can click on that, or I can just click on the browser and type in their Google Web Store. The Google Web Store looks like this. And I can type in there let's see, the one that I just pulled up, read and write or Chrome. And it pops up there. I click on it and I can then add it to Chrome. Mine says rate it because I've already added it to my Chrome browser. Yours would say down here, add to Chrome unless you've already added it. Now, as you can see, I have lots of extensions on my web browser. I have so many extensions that I actually have an extension that manages my extensions. And that extension is called Extensity. So I could just type in here, Extensity, and there's Extensity. I can add that to my web browser. And then I can easily and quickly turn on and off my extensions. So let me click on that and show you what that would look like. It gives me a list of my extensions. And all I need to do is click on one and it will disappear from that list. And I can click on it again and it will reappear. It kind of just puts it into sleep mode so that I don't have to see it. Because you can see that that starts taking up a lot of my web browser window. And I might not want that. I might want to put things in the back burner for a little while. Now, let's continue talking about extensions. Another extension that I love is called Wiki Wand. I'm hovering it over now. And you can see that each time I hover over one, it gives me the name of it. They have little icons for them. But if I hover over it, it shows the words, the name of it to me. So we know that when we give an assignment for a student to have a research project, we know that the first thing that they do is Google it. And what's the first thing that shows up in almost every Google search? It's a Wikipedia page. Wikipedia pages are managed by people who typically are experts on that field of subject. And being experts, they write those Wikipedia pages at a real high readability rate. It's difficult for a 4th, 5th, even a 6th, 8th, or 10th grader to read these Wikipedia pages. What Wiki Wand does is it just transitions that text into a more manageable readability level. So here we have the same look, the same pictures. It's just taken the readability level and kind of brought it down to a more manageable level for that student. I love Wiki Wand. It's a great one to have on all of your Chromebooks in your classroom. Another one that I really like is Mercury Reader. You can see that I'm hovering it over it now. Mercury Reader does a great job if students have an assignment for a current event or if they're simply reading the newspaper. When we pull up newspapers, this is what we typically get. We get a page that's filled with ads, with links to other articles, with pop-up videos, tons of extraneous information that students have a real struggle trying to saying, I don't want any of this. This is a great tool for students and it's a great tool for adults as well. Once I bring up whatever newspaper article I want to read or magazine article, if I click on Mercury Reader, it strips away all the ads, all the banners, all the videos, and simply provides me with the text, the title of the article, and then the text. You can see how much easier this article is to read than what we had presented before. I really like these extensions because they provide those supports. If every child is using a Chromebook to do an assignment, they don't know that this child just clicked on that. And if another student wants to use it, they can use it as well. It's a great tool for students. You can see that I have a multitude of them, and you can search for any topic that you want to at the Chrome Web Store. Usually they'll have things, summarization tools, where they take a large section of text and summarize it. So a kid might be able to read 3 paragraphs first just to get the gist of an article and then read the full article so that they have some pre-knowledge prior to reading. That's a great tool to use as well. So just go ahead and play around with it and look for some of them. I'm going to highlight one more extension that I really like, and it is called Cami. We know we've all been using Google Classroom, and we've been giving assignments to students. Sometimes those assignments might be a PDF. They might be just something that we've scanned from a work page that we had. And you say to yourself, well, how can a student write on that page? They have to go to a separate Google Doc, write their answers, come back to that. And transitioning back and forth is kind of difficult for a lot of students. So I'm going to show you a way we can mark up a PDF, and then that's markup means we write on it, and then we can send that back to the teacher so she can grade it or he can grade it. Let's go ahead and look at recents here. I'm just going to pull up a random document. Okay, this is something that I had given to some speech students that I had when I was doing therapy during virtual learning time. And what I can do is there's a toolbar on the left. Again, does a great job. If I hover over something, it highlights and tells me what that is. So this is a text box. So I just click on the document and I can't type. Okay, I wrote this as my answer. If I click somewhere else, I can put another answer. And then when I share this, you see up at the top, all I have to do is hover over it. I share that document back with the teacher. The teacher will get it all marked up just like this. If the student you want the students just to circle their answers, they can do that easily. If you want them just to underline or to say this is not my answer, they can do that. That extension is called Cami. I love Cami for the classroom, especially when we're in that virtual learning time. So once again, these are some supports. We know that Chromebooks are all over our district. Chromebooks and laptops, they're all running the Google Chrome browser, and these supports can be put onto any of those computers. I might add that whenever a student signs into Chrome on a Chromebook, these are attached to their account. So if they sign into their account in China, or if they go to grandma's on the weekend and they pull up the Chrome browser and they sign into Chrome, all these exact same supports come with them. It's a fantastic way for students to get those supports and keep them throughout their learning environments. All right. So let me go ahead and go back now and stop sharing my screen. Okay, and now I'm going to present again, and I'm going to present the PowerPoint again, because this has those resources that I just spoke about. If we need to go back to those resources, this has the Google Chrome Web Store, and this has the detailed instructions on how we can go to how we can access the read and write for Chrome toolbar that I showed you on that page. It also has this class code for our Assistive Technology Google Classroom. Now we're going to show you the web page from the Assistive Technology team. I'm going to stop sharing here. Okay.